Welcome to Matinee Prices.
Hey!
If you've been watching the show, the third season, this was the season of VizArt Video, and we were always going to have VizArt, former VizArt employees as guests, but in this episode, it's just me and Huru. But the way I'm looking at it, he's my guest, I'm his guest, we both worked at VizArt, still counts.
I even have the shirt.
Me too.
He's got
Different
a shirt.
Design.
VizArt shirt.
But honestly, like when we first started doing the show, it was just me and Huru on this couch talking about movies. So we're just like, oh, let's just do an old episode like we used to, with the two of us just talking about some movies we dig.
Yeah.
So tonight's theme, and inappropriate that we're going back to our roots. This is I've been wanting to do this episode since the first season. This is overlooked 80s high school comedies. Boom.
Boom. Co-ed.
Yeah. I would say it's a very important subgenre because it's fairly...
Non-private.
It's fairly recent
School.
in filmmaking, in that it was kind of a subgenre that exploded in the 80s. Before the 80s, high school comedies were not very common at all. And I'd say the one that started it all was maybe Rock and Roll High School. Came out in 1980. And all I need to tell you about that is Rock and Roll High School featured the Ramones.
Yeah.
And Clint Howard. If I haven't sold you on this movie just by saying the Ramones and Clint Howard, you're watching the wrong show.
Well, imagine there are black people watching the show.
Black people don't know about Clint Howard?
Oh, well, they don't know about the Ramones either, so keep going.
Alright. Well, Clint Howard's the man. The Ramones are the man. Or the men. Or they were. They're all dead now. One of them's still alive.
One of them's still alive.
But...
They don't know who they are.
Yeah. Alright, well, look them up. Play Blitzkrieg Bop, and you'll know that song.
You'll know Blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some other ones, classics, Better Off Dead.
Yeah.
John Hughes made a career out of them. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club.
It's like Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles.
Yep.
A little overlooked TV show from 1982 called Square Pegs, starring a very young Sarah Jessica Parker. It was created and produced by some people who worked for Saturday Night Live in the early years. They were writers for the first 5 seasons of Saturday Night Live. It's a good show. It only ran for one season, but if you can find it, check it out. It's good. Bill Murray pops up in an episode, and he did it as a personal favor to his friends back at SNL. And it's a really funny show. So now we're going to get into our first movie.
Oh, and Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Period of the late 80s.
Yeah.
89. Yeah.
By then the genre is taken off. But
yeah.
If we're doing classic TV shows.
Totally, yeah.
Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Yeah, and very similar to Square Pegs.
Yeah.
Parker, yeah, good. Very good.
The main character, his family, owned a video store.
Yes, and played by the great Corin Nemec and Abraham Ben Ruby, playing the world's greatest bully. Kubiak, who was like a legitimate monster with a heart of gold.
Well, tied with Zeus.
Zeus, yeah, but he was way more legitimately terrifying. Kubiak, like you could distract him with a pice of fish.
Yeah, and they did.
They did all the time.
Yeah.
So,
but hey, video stores.
Parker Lewis Can't Lose. Yeah,
love them.
Yeah. I want to talk about one of my personal favorites, Summer School.
Summer School.
Directed by the honest-to-God living legend, Carl Reiner. He's still alive.
He is still alive.
I think he's 93.
Damn,
he's going to be in the new Ocean's 8 movie that's coming out.
Yeah, that's true.
Summer School stars... Oh, and Carl Reiner, if you don't know him, he was also the director of The Jerk, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, All of Me, Oh God, The Man with Two Brains, The Dick Van Dyke Show, Sid Caesar, 2,000-Year-Old Man, all of it.
Yeah.
It stars Mark Harmon, Kirstie Alley, Courtney Thorne Smith, Dean Cameron, Gary Riley, the tragically underrated Kelly Jo Minter, who in my opinion belongs in the Horror Hall of Fame because she was in The Lost Boys, Miracle Mile, Night One on the Street Part 5, Popcorn, and People Under the Stairs.
Ah.
She is terrifyingly underrated.
Okay.
Love me some Kelly Jo Minter, and she is amazing in Summer School. It's like probably her biggest role. Like she gets to be like a main star in Summer School, and the great Shawnee Smith, who we mentioned
Shawnee Smith
when we were talking about the Blob.
Actually, his picture is featured in our show.
Yes.
Featured more than he realizes. He'll find out later.
Okay.
Surprise! Surprise! Surprise!
Basic plot: Summer School. Mark Harmon plays a gym teacher. He gets roped into teaching summer school. He has no concept of how to actually teach because he's a gym teacher. And he's got a gang of misfits, and they all have to pass or he's going to lose his job. It's a really silly, kind of wacky 80s comedy, but it does touch on some issues. Kelly Jo Minter's character is dyslexic and has kept it hidden, so they deal with dyslexia. Shawnee Smith's character is pregnant, so they deal with teenage pregnancies. Mm-hmm. And Chainsaw and Dave, one of the greatest comedy duos of all time, are full-on alcoholics. Like, they're teenage alcoholics. Like, and at the beginning it's presented as kind of funny, but they end up realizing, like, you can't be a teenage drunk, and they get sober. And one of my favorite things about Summer School is that Chainsaw and Dave are obsessed with horror movies.
Yeah.
When they have to do their report about the man I admire most, they do it on Rick Baker.
Yeah.
And there's a scene, one of the greatest scenes ever, where they're trying to scare off a new teacher, so they use their special effects and makeup prowess to stage a massacre.
Yeah.
And if this had been in a horror movie, this scene alone would have gotten an R rating. But I think within the confines of this movie, because you know going in that it's not real,
that it's not real,
they can keep it PG-13. But like their eyeballs ripped out, Ikian has like a saw blade through his head, and the one guy like he's been gutted, and he's like trying to shove intestines back into his body.
But then when it's all over, they're kind of like what? What do we do?
Yeah.
With saw blades still sticking out of their head, and they're like,
and then they all like start laughing.
They start cracking up. Yeah.
Yeah. Great movie. Summer School. Directed by the great Carl Reiner. Great cast.
I can't believe Carl Reiner did that.
It's he apparently just fell in love with the script. Someone brought it to him.
Okay.
Like, taking like a swing, like maybe we could get Carl Reiner to do this.
Right.
And it's like, it's an 80s teen comedy.
Yeah.
And Carl Reiner apparently was like, this is one of the funniest things I've ever read. And he loved it. And he was the one who pushed for Mark Harmon to be cast, because Mark Harmon's credits to that point were, like, the only thing he had done was he was in a TV movie where he played Ted Bundy. And
so he hadn't done Moonlighting yet?
No.
Okay.
But Carl Reiner met him and was like, this is the guy. This is the guy that's going to carry this movie. And Mark Harmon is fantastic in this movie. Really charming, really likable. Fantastic movie. Summer School. Check it out. So now we're going to move on to, this is one of my favorite movies, and it's one of Huru's favorite movies, so I'm going to let him take the lead on this one.
I don't want to take the lead.
3 O'Clock High.
I'll take the lead.
Directed by Phil Janal, who did The Gridiron Gang and State of Grace. Casey Siemaszko, much like Kelly Jo Minter, one of the great underrated 80s actors. He was in Young Guns, Stand By Me, Back to the Future. And then he's appeared on NYPD Blue, Damages, and probably the greatest episode of Amazing Stories that they ever made. Richard Tyson from Kindergarten Cop, There's Something About Mary, Black Hawk Down, Kingpin. If you keep your eyes peeled, you will see a very young Paul Feig as the hall monitor. Paul Feig, as you may know, was the creator of the show Freaks and Geeks. He also directed Bridesmaids, Heat, Spy. Jeffrey Tambor is in it. Philip Baker Hall is in it. Mitch Pileggi, Skinner from the X-Files. And if you're watching through the very end during the closing credits...
Well, at bookends, are you getting ready to say...
Yardley Smith.
Yardley Smith.
Lisa Simpson.
Like 5 seconds at the start of the movie, and 5 seconds at the end.
But as soon as you hear her talk, you're like, that's Lisa Simpson.
That's Lisa Simpson.
Yeah. Great cast.
She's probably the biggest star. No disrespect to Mitch.
Yeah.
But, the biggest star in that movie. But this is... what would you call this? Well, it's a
High Noon.
High Noon.
Yeah.
It's a remake or an interpretation.
I'd say it's an interpretation.
Interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't call it a remake. It's not a Western.
Right.
But kid in high school, Nice kid, kind of a loser, small.
He's a nerd.
Small stature.
Yearbook staff, school paper.
Accidentally runs afoul of a bully.
He touches him.
Runs afoul.
Yeah.
Like, let's be dramatic here.
Yeah.
And spends pretty much the entire day trying to get out of the fight that the bully wants to have, obviously at 3 o'clock.
Yep.
And he spends the entire day trying to get out of it, trying to run away, trying to hide,
trying to get himself thrown in detention.
Tries to get another big jock to beat up the bully, which does not work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely entertaining. It is one of the most underrated. When we say underrated, this is like, no, this should be on TV like all the time, constantly, as much as like any of the CSIs
or it should have the acclaim.
Law and Orders.
Or it should have the acclaim of like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off or Breakfast Club.
It really should.
And
maybe because of the soundtrack.
Maybe
the soundtrack isn't as poppy or memorable.
Maybe not. Yeah.
But otherwise, this movie is fantastic.
So good. And you'll recognize everyone from the supporting cast. Jeffrey Tambor from Arrested Development, Philip Baker Hall from everything, and it's just such a good movie. If you've seen the recent movie Fist Fight with Ice Cube and Charlie Day, Fist Fight was a remake of 3 O'Clock High, like almost beat for beat, except instead of students as teachers.
Okay.
But but as far as like fight scenes, it's like the fight when they it's like, spoiler alert, they actually do fight at the end of the movie.
Oh, okay.
And it's presented as a real fight. Like it's not fancy.
No.
It's ugly. There's lots of like just being thrown to the ground.
There's no
and,
Muay Thai.
Yeah.
There's no capoeira.
Yeah. And despite the fact that the bully has like 10 inches and 75 pounds on the little guy, they do make it believable where like the little kid is holding his own.
Yeah.
And because at one point like his friend helps him and then his sister helps him.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not, but 3 O'Clock High.
Just watch it.
I can't. And I want to say a little give a little shout out to our buddy Dave Parker. This is one of his favorite movies. I'm gonna let him know that we talked about it.
Talked about him. Talked smack about him.
Talked smack. But that was. But like when you meet somebody and you're like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. I can hang with this guy. But then you find out that little thing. Like one day we were talking about movies and 3 O'Clock High came up. And he was geeking out about it. And I was like, all right, we definitely hang out now.
And my thought was, I'm like, I'm going to have to kill this dude. And I was like, oh, you like 3 O'Clock High too? All right, I won't kill you.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go. There you go. Yeah. 3 O'Clock High. Watch it. It might save your life.
And it is one of those movies, I feel like it's like kind of the secret handshake of people from a certain age group.
Yeah.
Where it's like, because most people don't know about it because it doesn't get rerun on cable. It wasn't a box office hit. So like, if you know about it, you probably were like a teenager when it came out. So if you're under the age of like 20 or 25, you probably have no concept of this movie. You've probably never seen it.
I've talked to some people, but they're also movie geeks.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the secret handshake of movie geeks.
There you go.
Yeah. It's kind of like meet a movie geek. All right, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Oh, really? All right, you're in.
Have you seen 3 O'Clock High?
Yes.
Boom. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, but like I said, in my opinion, it should be on the same list with Breakfast Club and
it should.
Ferris Bueller, Fast Times,
it should.
all those.
Yeah. This one and the next one we're going to talk about.
The next one we're going to talk about.
I like Summer School, and its pedigree is basically from Carl Reiner. Like I'm still stunned that he did that. Like it's a good solid movie.
Totally.
But like
it's one of those things where like all these little elements make it better than the average. Like the fact that Chainsaw and Dave are obsessed with makeup and effects, and Kelly Jo Minter just like talking smack through the whole movie, just like smacking people down with her insults, and then a very young Courtney Thorne Smith is in it. Kirstie Alley, like one of her first star roles.
Yeah, that's right.
Really good movie. But Carl Reiner like pushes it over the edge. Like you could describe that movie to somebody and be like, okay, that sounds good. And then you could be like, it was directed by Carl Reiner. Like, I might have to actually check that out.
Have to watch that.
Yeah. And this technically counts because it came out in 1990, so it's still part of the 80s decade because the 90s don't technically start until 1991. So
I don't think that's true. But go ahead.
Yeah, because there was no year zero.
Okay.
So you're grandfather clause.
Yeah.
Just
There's a 9 in it.
Just give me this.
Okay, right.
We are talking about and I would say like House Party.
House Party.
House Party,
House
and
Party.
not like it's weird to say that this movie was criminally underrated because of the accolades and the fact that it was one of the, as far as budget to gross, one of the most successful movies of 1990. It made $27 million off of a $2.5 million budget. That's insane profit.
Insane.
That is insane. Also, it was directed by Reginald Hudlin, who also directed Boomerang, The Great White Hype, Marshall, and Ladies Man.
And is a former writer of Black Panther comic books.
Comic books. Primarily known, I'd say mostly known as a TV director. He's directed for The Bernie Mac Show, The Office, The Middle, Psych, Modern Family, Better Off Ted, and Bones.
Didn't he work on Justice League too?
Yes, he did.
Boom.
Great director. This movie won the Cinematography and Filmmakers Trophy Awards at Sundance the year it came out, and it was nominated at the Independent Spirit Awards for Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. This is a fantastic movie. It's
who's in it?
It's unique. Okay, who's it? Kid and Play. Much like this movie, Kid and Play themselves are very underrated. It's like they've been forgotten.
Yeah. Well, every time somebody starts to dance and do the Kid and Play kick,
the kick, everybody knows
it. So that's
or it could be like that they know the kick and have no idea where that came from.
True.
Yeah.
But then somebody tells them Kid and Play.
Co-starring Martin Lawrence, one of his very first roles. Tisha Campbell.
Also Martin Lawrence.
And in one little role, I just wrote her name on there because she was also in summer school. Kelly Jo Minter has a scene.
Kelly Jo Minter.
Daryl Chill Mitchell.
Chill
Mitchell.
Oh.
And one of the all-time great cameos.
Perky's, go.
George Clinton.
Before he made it to PCU,
he was in House Party. House Party is very unique in regards to the high school comedy genre, for one thing, an all African American cast. Don't get to see that very often, especially from an 80s or early 90s movie.
And by often, we mean
like ever. Yeah.
Except in House Party 2 and House Party 3.
Yeah, but if like Superbad had an all black cast, that's House Party. Can't Hardly Wait.
Or Project X.
Yeah.
The new one, not the Matthew
Broderick one with the chimpanzees.
Yeah.
But I'd say a lot of current movies owe a lot to House Party, where like the movie is we're throwing a party, what's going to happen, and that's basically the plot of the movie. It's a very silly movie in some respects. It's almost like cartoonish.
Yeah.
With the comedy.
Yeah.
It is rated R. There's cursing and I was going to talk about despite the fact that it's a silly movie. It does. I mean, obviously, it touches on like race and classism,
right?
Because you've got Kid's character and Shireen. They are both like poor,
right?
But Play and Tisha Campbell's character, they come from money.
They come from
so
money.
You've got that little disconnect between like best friends. One's rich, one's not so good, not so poor, One's rich, one's family's not so well off.
He's cute.
Racism, police brutality. It touches on all this stuff in a very like, I don't want to say lighthearted way, but it's not like it's beating you over the head with. It's not Boys in the Hood. Yeah. It's not Menace to Society.
Yeah.
It's just there are these two. They're it's like the cops.
Oh yeah.
That just kind of keep popping up throughout the movie.
Yep.
They're just these racist, ineffectual, like asshole white cops who just kind of cruise throughout the movie harassing people for no reason at all.
No reason at all. Part of it's because they're actors and that's what they're paid to do.
Well, yeah.
But part of it is they're representing police brutality,
real stuff that was happening, and weirdly enough,
still is. Yeah, I was gonna say take off that was.
Yeah.
And
present tense as well.
Real quick, I was at the library and the bookstore. At the bottom of the library, this nice older ladies. Oh, welcome! And, they always welcome you in. And it's like we're having a sale. We have this shelf with just a myriad of books. And I'm like, yeah. And over here we have and she froze for a second and she went to
she knew what she...
Black History. Black History. And like there were 3 of them in there, one was leaving, and they all went, yep, Black History, that one's Black History. And I kind of like as they're all like stereophonics just telling me Black History, I kind of lean in like, you can call it history.
Yeah.
And they went, no, but specifically
Wait, did you really say that?
Yes, I did.
Nice.
So I was like, it's okay, you can just call it history.
Yeah.
No, but specifically I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. just a little aside there.
Yeah.
Just to make us waste time. We'll edit it out. It's fine.
If it's funny, we're leaving it in. And that was funny.
But House Party, there were so many people in this thing.
Oh, John Witherspoon.
John Witherspoon's in this
Yeah.
thing. You talked about Robin Harris, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Robin Harris, God rest his soul. He was Bernie Mac before Bernie Mac was Bernie Mac.
Well, he was going to be the next. Everybody was talking about he was the next thing. Like Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby, Eddie Murphy. Robin Harris was
next
like
in line.
His star was rising. He was
And
gonna be the next
Eddie Murphy,
thing.
Richard Pryor, like Robin Harris was in Harlem Nights.
Harlem Nights.
Yeah. He was also in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. He is the one who created Bebe's Kids. That was one of his most famous routines.
Kids.
Robin Harris plays Kid's father in the movie, despite the fact that I think he was only 10 years older than Kid in real life. But and played a great role. And like one of his first roles, he wasn't like, he was relatively new to acting because he had mostly a stand up. But like he was one of those guys who was just a natural. He had that thing.
He had.
And passed away way too soon. Another thing I want to talk about in House Party is there was a lot of things about House Party that are different, not with just the cast and the fact that like, but it's not your typical high school movie in that like every high school movie you see nowadays with there's a party involved,
right.
The guys are like, we got to get some girls over here
right.
and we got to get them drunk so they'll hook up with us.
Right.
And House Party has a very like anti-drugs and alcohol message, Like there's no alcohol at this party, and the one guy who does bring some beer is like the buffoon.
Yep.
Like he's trying to dance and he's too drunk and he like passes out.
Yep.
And they wheel him home in a shopping cart, and like they did in Animal House.
Yep.
And just prop him up on the door and leave him. Yeah, because like they weren't down with like trying to get messed up. They were just trying to party and have a good time. Also, it has a good like kind of a positive message about sex. Like when Kid and Tisha Campbell are back home. It's like they're fooling around, and he realizes he doesn't have a condom, so they just stop.
Yep.
You know, it's a lot of positive messages in this movie. Also about like just being respectful and being like a good person. Robin Harris was like the overbearing dad who would like whoop his son's ass if he stepped out of line.
Yep.
But he loved him and just wanted him to like finish his homework and like be a good student.
A lot of if you take out the whole getting high thing in Fridays, a lot of the messages were similar.
Yeah,
You know, like
similar. Just
Witherspoon was still the dad, and he was like talking
Like
smack him, but he was like when he gave the speech about like not using guns, like, use your fist.
So many people are too afraid to take an ass whooping.
Yep.
And speaking of whooping, should we just mention Full Force briefly? The guys who are like 15 years too old to still be in high school.
That's usually how it happens.
And they're all built like professional like weightlifters, and they're just like the bullies throughout that just are just harassing Kid through the whole movie. And that scene where like he's choking Kid out on the DJ. George Clinton plays the DJ, and George Clinton just grabs an album and cracks it over his head, and he's like, "Yeah, what? Come on." I love that movie. Check it out. You'll see a lot of faces. If you didn't recognize the name, Daryl Chill Mitchell, if you've seen 10 Things I Hate About You, he played the teacher. Galaxy Quest.
So funny.
He's a great...
John Larroquette Show.
The John Larroquette Show.
Yeah.
Great. He was a car wreck or a motorcycle accident?
Yeah, something like
that.
that.
Yeah, he's still alive, but he's in a wheelchair now, paralyzed from the waist down. But he's another guy. It's like if he had... He could have been a big star.
Yeah. He was already a medium star.
He was
on his way up.
Working actor, yeah. But so those are our high school movies. All three of those great. Please check out any of the movies that we just mentioned and have a good time. So
House Party and 3 O'clock High.
House Party and 3 O'Clock High.
I'm sorry, like
they're
that. Obviously, Carl Reiner.
Yeah.
Anything Carl Reiner does, but those two movies.
Yeah.
I'm like really.
And Summer School was like a big hit, and it does play on cable a lot, and people do know about it.
See,
House Party and 3 O'Clock High have kind of been swept under the rug, and it's really sad.
No, you do not know.
So check out either of those movies.
We're doing.
So now we lost a couple of people this past week. Don't know when you're watching this. Maybe when you're watching this, they died 3 months ago. First, I want to briefly mention Mr. John Mahoney. He was the dad from Frasier, and he was Ione Skye's dad in Say Anything.
Yeah.
And tons of other stuff. I feel like those are the two he's mostly known for. He was a great actor. He passed away. But now we want to talk about Connie Sawyer, a woman I had never heard of, but then when I looked her up, I was like, oh, her.
Yep.
Connie Sawyer was the oldest living working actress still alive, and she passed away. She was 105 years old and was still working as recently as 3 years ago.
Yep.
I'm going to read a few of her credits.
You're at 28.
Yeah. Movies: A Hole in the Head, Ada, True Grit, Bob Carroll, Ted and Alice, The Man in the Glass Booth, Oh God, Foul Play, and Justice for All, When Harry Met Sally, Dumb and Dumber, Out of Sight, Something's Gotta Give, Pineapple Express. TV credits, and again, I'm skimming. This is just not even...
Keep going.
Yeah. The Jackie Gleason Show, Dr. Kildare, The Fugitive, The Andy Griffith Show, Bonanza, Good Times, Kojak, Starsky and Hutch, Welcome Back Kotter, Mary Tyler Moore, Dynasty, Silver Spoons, Webster, Murphy Brown, Seinfeld, Boy Meets World, That 70s Show, ER, The Office, New Girl, Ray Donovan. Some of the directors she worked with throughout her career.
That's a lot.
Frank Capra, Henry Hathaway, Paul Mazursky, Carl Reiner, Norman Jewison, Rob Reiner, Brian De Palma, Steven Soderbergh, Nancy Myers, David Gordon Green, Paul Feig, the Farrelly Brothers.
Paul Feig. Oh yeah, right.
The Office.
Gotcha.
He directed the episode of Office she was in. And I will say this, I guarantee you she's the only person who could have ever made this claim. The only person who could honestly say that they had worked with Jackie Gleason, Donna Reed, Natalie Wood, Frank Sinatra, John Wayne, Susan Hayward, Jim Carrey, Chevy Chase, Al Pacino, Zooey Deschanel, James Franco. Who else could say that they worked with Jackie Gleason and James Franco?
Yeah.
Probably no one.
Yeah. Well,
I can't think of any. Maybe.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
All those other ones, no way. 105 years old. Last she worked on was Ray Donovan. And there was a quote. She was like, I had fun on Ray Donovan because my son was a hitman and I got to cuss a lot. That was her quote from her experience on Ray Donovan. But yeah, Connie Sawyer, 105 years old. She was a legend, and not enough people know who she was. Raise a glass to Connie Sawyer and to John Mahoney.
And John Mahoney.
So yes, and thank you for watching our episode about overlooked 80s high school teen comedies. Thank you for watching.
We are Devo. Later.
Keep watching movies.
Keep watching movies.
Good night.
Yeah, I'll see you.
It's the Baxter Show.
It's the Baxter Show.